Hi friends, welcome back to my channel and to the start of another weekly reading vlog. So for this week I have two books that I'd like to get to, and they're both YA fantasy books that have whimsical covers. And so the first one is Legend of the White Snake by Sher, and I believe this one is a standalone, and I've read another book by this author. A couple years ago I read her contemporary romance book Fake Dates and Mooncakes, and I really enjoyed that one, so I'm excited to read this one. And just like the cover on this is so gorgeous. And then the second book I want to get to is A Magic Steeped in Poisons. This is one that's been on my TBR for a while now, and this is the first book in a duology. And again, this cover is gorgeous. And this one I'm also really excited to get to because the magic system in here revolves around tea, and that just sounds so whimsical to me. And so I think I'm going to start with this one since it's the shorter of the two. And I'm not sure how much reading I'm going to get done today because it is Easter Sunday, and in a little bit I'm going over to my parents for the afternoon. So I'm just not sure how much I'll read of this today. But once I've read some, I'll be back to tell you more about this book and to share my thoughts. Guys, so it's now Wednesday and I'm here with a reading update in Legend of the White Snake because I've made it to page 201, chapter 26. So I'm more than halfway through and I only have about 130 pages left in this book. And so far I'm having a really good time with this. So let me first tell you a little bit about what this is about, and then I'll share more of my thoughts. So this story is told in third-person perspective, and it alternates between the perspective of our two main characters. So our first main character is Xian, and he is one of the younger princes of the emperor, and his mother was one of the emperor's favorite courtesans. And she has been sick for a very long time. She was bitten by a white snake, and so she's been slowly dying. And so one of the only cures for her sickness is a spirit pearl. And so 10 years ago, Xian's father was able to find one, but then Xian was kidnapped, and the kidnappers demanded the spirit pearl. And so that whole incident ended with Xian falling into a lake and the spirit pearl being lost. And so since then, Xian and one of his father's advisors had been experimenting on snakes to try to find another cure for his mother. And they are very close to finding a cure, but the one thing they think they need in order to find the cure is a white snake. And then at the start of the book, Xian learns that his mother only has 2 months left to live, so his father sends one of his advisors to the oracle seeking advice. And the oracle says that what they are seeking is in this certain city. And so Xian and some members of his father's court end up heading to the city with the hopes of finding a white snake and being able to finally complete the antidote for his mother. So once he gets to the city, he ends up meeting Zhen, who is our other main character. And upon meeting, the two are instantly drawn to each other. And so Zhen is, as the cover suggests, he is actually a white snake in human form. 10 years ago, when Xian fell into the lake with the spirit pearl, Zhen rescued Xian, but he swallowed the pearl in the process, and by swallowing the pearl, it made him into a spirit snake, and so now he's able to shift between snake form and human form. And so our story goes from there with Xian and Zhen getting to know each other, and also with the search for the white snake going on in the background. And so now for my thoughts. So as I said at the beginning, I'm having a really good time for this, and this is one of those YA fantasies that has like a very sweet and cozy feeling to it. So yes, there's some serious stuff going on in the background with Xian trying to find the cure for his mother, but overall a large focus of the story has been on the relationship between Zhen and Xian, with them getting to know each other and falling in love with each other. So overall, so far the story has just been very cute and sweet. I really like our two main characters, especially Zhen. He's just really kind-hearted, and in the story he is with this other girl who he calls his sister, but she is actually a snake that he saved from a human who was going to kill her. And she is almost on the brink of death, and in order to save her, he gives her a piece of the spirit pearl that is inside of him. So essentially, like, he's like giving her a piece of his soul because he doesn't want her to die, even though he doesn't even know her. And that right there just shows like how genuinely kind he is. And I also like with him, since he was a snake before he was a human, he has a very unique perspective and a unique voice overall, because you get to see like things he learned as a snake, but you also get to see things that he has learned or is learning as a human. And also, since he was a snake and essentially is still a snake, he is also able to communicate with other animals as well. So in addition to our two main characters, there's also some endearing side characters as well, with one of those being Zhen's sister and also Xian's guard and best friend. And there is also another side character right now that I am kind of suspicious of, and maybe I'm wrong, but something about that character just seems off, so I am very intrigued to see if I am right about that or if I'm just totally wrong. One thing I will say is that it is kind of obvious what the main conflict is going to be between these two, what's going to become between them. But I will say that that thing just happened like around page 200, and I wasn't expecting it to happen when it did happen, so that took me a little bit by surprise. And I do still have 130 pages left in the book, so I'm wondering how the rest of the story is going to go, because I would think that thing would have happened like maybe a little bit more towards the end. And that's why I also kind of think that other character might be up to no good. So those are all my thoughts for now. Like I said, I am just having a really good time with this so far. And so far it's just like one of those very cozy and warm-hearted YA fantasies that is one of my favorite types of YA fantasy. And so I'm going to try to finish this today. I don't know if I'll have time, but this does read really fast, so I may be able to. And I also, I really hope that these two get to have a happy ending. And I want to know if my theory about that other character, if I am right or wrong. Hi, so it is now Saturday, April 26th, so it's been a little bit since my last update. But I did finish reading Legend of the White Snake, on Wednesday night. And I haven't picked up anything else since then, but I am here to share my final thoughts on this. So I ended up giving this 5 stars because I just loved the romance in this. The romance just made my heart so happy. It's very much a sweet, cute, innocent, and a little bit of a bittersweet romance, and it just had my whole heart. And I was really happy with how everything ended. And I know in my earlier update I mentioned that there was something in the plot that I saw coming from a mile away. Well, to make up for that, towards the end of this book, there was a plot twist that I did not see coming that caught me off guard. Overall, I think that Vanessa Lin, who gives a little blurb about the book on the back of it, best describes how I felt about the book. So she says, it's a moving and beautiful retelling, skillfully balancing tension, adventure, and a heartfelt romance. An absolute treat to read, and I 100% agree with all that. Also, I don't think I mentioned it before, but this book is a reimagining of the Chinese folklore of the same name. And this book very much gave me the vibes of a Chinese fantasy drama. And it reminded me a little bit of The Untamed, and it had those same vibes. So I feel like if you are a fan of Chinese fantasy dramas, or you're a fan of The Untamed, then I would definitely check out this book. So next, I will be starting a Magic Steeped in Poison. I am really excited to finally get to this. But on that note, today is already Saturday, and usually I would end these vlogs on Sundays, but I'm going to extend this vlog for a week longer because I really want to read this book in this vlog and maybe the whole duology. So I'm gonna go start this, and I'll be back when I have some thoughts. Hi, so it's now Tuesday, April 29th, and I am here with a reading update on A Magic Steeped in Poison. So I have made it to chapter 13, page 103, and so far I am enjoying this, and so let me just tell you a little bit about what this is about, and then I will share more of my thoughts. To give you an idea about what this is about, I'm actually just going to read the little description on the inside flap because it's actually very concise and it doesn't give away any spoilers. It just tells you like an overview of what happens at the very beginning. So it reads, "For Ning, the only thing worse than losing her mother is knowing that it's her own fault. She was the one who unknowingly brewed the poison tea that killed her mother, the poison tea that now threatens to also take her sister's shoe. When Ning hears of a competition to find the kingdom's greatest Xingnengshi masters of the ancient and magical art of tea making, she travels to the imperial city to compete. The winner will receive a favor from the princess, which may be Ning's only chance to save her sister's life. But between the backstabbing competitors, the bloody court politics, and a mysterious and handsome boy with a shocking secret, Ning might actually be the one in more danger." So that's a little overview of what this is about, and it is told in first person perspective from our main character Ning's point of view. And so now for my thoughts so far. So far my two favorite things about this book are 1, the writing style, and 2, the tea-based magic system. The writing style, it's very whimsical, a bit lyrical, and overall it just feels very beautiful. And it pulled me in right from the very first page of this book. I just want to share a couple passages from this book that really show the writing style and just how beautiful and whimsical that feels. So the first quote comes from page 1, and it reads, "Memories slip from beneath the open lid with a sigh, as if they've been waiting for me there in the tea-scented dark." Then the next passage I want to read is on page 4, and it reads, "I lean forwards and breathe in the sweet scent of apples. I hear the drowsy drone of bees among the wildflower blooms. A feeling of comfort envelops me, wrapping me in warmth." And so that specific paragraph is describing tea that the main character is brewing at the beginning. Just like that description gives like a whimsical and magical but also cozy feeling. And really so far, like all descriptions of tea in this book have made me want to go brew a cup of tea. And that specific type of tea that she is brewing in chapter 4 also has some magic infused into it, so that when you drink it, it gives you a sense of courage. And so that's our first glimpse into this tea-based magic system. And it said that the greatest tea masters can see the future in the steam of a well-brewed cup of tea. And then you also learn that each different group of people have like their own cultures and their beliefs in different ways of brewing tea. Also seems like the magic of each person differs from individual to individual as well. So for example, our main character Ning, her strength seems to be that when she brews tea, she like shares her emotions and memories, and she can also coax out other people's emotions and memories as well. And so I feel like her magic is just like very intriguing and also just feels very whimsical as well. So those are two elements of the story that I'm really enjoying so far. And then I also have to mention that we have been introduced to the love interest. So not long after arriving in the capital, she ends up going to the city to buy tea for the competition. While in the marketplace, she ends up helping out a young boy who is in trouble. And our love interest sees this, and so after that ordeal, he approaches her and introduces himself. But of course, like, he gives her a name that is clearly a fake name. And so, like, in return, she also gives him a fake name. And so that little part of their interaction was really cute. And then he kind of shows her around the city, and he shows her his favorite candy from his childhood. And then they finally go to the tea shop, and she ends up brewing a cup of tea, and when she brews a cup of tea, her magic ends up manifesting itself, and they kind of have like a moment between the two of them. But then that moment is like abruptly broken when the magic like shares something about his past that he wasn't ready to share, and so like he kind of disappears after that. But overall, those first meeting scenes with the two of them are just very cute and sweet. And there is very obviously like an initial attraction that they both have towards each other as well. Also at that point, the love interest is very mysterious and you don't really know his real identity yet at that point. So I was very intrigued by his character, and at the point where I'm at now in the story, I have learned a little bit more about him. And so I'm just very interested to see where the dynamic between the two of them goes. So those are all my thoughts so far on A Magic Steeped in Poison. I'm hoping to read more of this tonight. It is already 7:41 p.m., so I'm not sure how much more I will read. But I was thinking of downloading the audiobook because I do want to work on my puzzle that I started like 2 weeks ago now. 2 weeks ago I sorted out all the pieces for my puzzle, and since then I haven't touched it because I just haven't had the time to do any more. So I really want to work on more of that, so I think I'm going to try to get the audiobook for this and listen to that on audio and work more on my puzzle. Hi, so it is now Sunday, May 4th, and I finished A Magic Steeped in Poison yesterday, so I am here to give my final thoughts and to wrap up this video. So I ended up really enjoying this, and there were many parts of this book that I loved. I love the magic system in here so much. As I mentioned before, it's a tea-based magic system. It just feels so cozy and whimsical and enchanting, and also a little bit dark at times. And I loved getting to see how our main character used the tea magic, and there's many instances throughout the book where you get to see all the different sides of the magic. And in addition to seeing her practice the tea magic, you also get to see how other people use it through the competition that she's in. And speaking of the competition, I love when there's competitions or tournaments in books. I love those types of arcs. And this one was very well done. Every round of the competition felt unique, and each trial that they had to face showed a different aspect of the tea magic. The competition was one of the main focuses of the plot, but there was also other things going on as well, such as the whole mystery of who poisoned the tea bricks that ended up killing Ning's mother and making her sister really ill. And so for this entire book, I was trying to figure out who could have been responsible for poisoning the tea bricks, but there were just so many twists and turns in here that I never really guessed correctly. Like, there was one character that I was kind of suspicious of, and they do play a part in that whole ordeal. So I wasn't wrong about that, but I never guessed like the actual mastermind behind it. And then also add to all that, you also have politics going on as well, court politics, and the politics were really politicking in the second half of this book. They were super intriguing. And then along with all that going on, I kept questioning like who can actually be trusted in this book. And speaking of the characters, like I really loved Ning as our main character. And there are also very many interesting and well-developed side characters as well. There is another girl who in the competition who is around the same age as Ning, and her and Ning like become friends, and I just loved their friendship. And then you also have the princess, who you get to learn more about, especially in the second half of the book, and her handmaiden. And then the only character that I feel like needed more development and didn't 100% click with me was the love interest. So I feel like that was the one thing in this book that I didn't love, and that was the love interest and just the romance overall. Which, this is only the first book in a duology, so there's still plenty of time for the romance to be developed in the second book, but just like in this first one, I just feel like we didn't get enough of a love interest. Like, there are some scenes with him and Ning in here, but I feel like those scenes are just like very few of them in this book. And the book has more of a focus on the competition and Ning just really trying to find a cure for her sister. So while Legend of the White Snake, I would say, is very much like a romantasy because the plot and the romance are definitely intertwined, this one feels definitely more a fantasy with some romance in it. So this was super close to a 5-star read for me, but I'm giving it 4.5 stars just because I feel like the love interest needs a little bit more development and the romance just in this one felt a little underwhelming. And overall, like, the romance just felt a little bit underdeveloped in Insta-Lovey in this one. And mostly, like, I feel like the Insta-Love feelings came from the male love interest's side because I feel like he just fell for Ning way too fast, which in and of itself made me suspicious of his character. And I was like, is he really in love with her or is something else going on? But that's really my only complaint about this book. And like I said, this is only the first book in a duology, so there is still plenty of time for the romance to be developed more in the second book. And speaking of this being the first book in a duology, the ending does end on a little bit of a cliffhanger, and just like the last 100 pages of this book were like a roller coaster of a ride. Like, so many things happened, there were so many revelations, so many more questions that came to light. So I'll definitely be reading the second one. Probably not right away because there's just some other books that I want to read first, but I will definitely be getting to that one sometime in the near future. And I actually have it right here too. So this is the second one, A Venom So Dark and Sweet. So those are all my thoughts on this book. Would definitely recommend, especially if you love whimsical fantasy books or books with very whimsical magic systems. Definitely recommend this. I'm gonna end this video here. I was thinking about reading this second one in this video, but this video has already gone on for 2 weeks, so I kind of want to end it here. If you've read either of these, let me know down below what you thought of them. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye!